Okay, I'm going to call this regularly scheduled meeting of the Lawton City Council to order. Please stand for the invocation by Pastor Jeff Elbert of Cameron Baptist Church, along with his daughter Isabel, and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pastor?
Let's bow our heads. Dear Lord, Heavenly Father, we're just thankful for an opportunity to be able to assemble publicly and freely. We don't take that for granted, dear Lord. We're thankful for how you have managed to bring us together for a day such as this, dear Lord. We pray for these proceedings. Most of all, we pray for our leadership. We pray for our citizens, dear God, the residents of our great city. We pray for our families getting ready to get back into gear, getting back to school, dear God. We're thankful for the weather, but we would love some rain, dear Lord. We're so grateful that you have seen fit to bless this city in the ways that you have. We pray that you continue to do so, and we put our trust in you in all things. In Jesus' name, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right, thank you. And Pastor Jeff not only is a pastor at Cameron Baptist, but he's also the founder of the Great 580 that promotes good happenings in our community. And many times, the Great 580 is the source of those good happenings, such as backpacks and school supplies and other great things they do. So, Pastor, we're glad to have you here, and especially glad to have Isabel here as well. With that, please call the roll.
Hampton, Fortenbaugh, Johnson, Warren, Hankins, Harris, Chapman, Burke.
Okay, now we have a special presentation. If the Neighborhood Services will please come forward. Commendation of Neighborhood Services Division for exemplary work by Supervisor Corey Bowen, Code Compliance Officers, Abatement Process Administrators, and Administrative Staff. Michael?
Mayor, as you're well aware, our Code Enforcement Division has a very tough job. They have to judiciously apply our City Code of Ordinances to a variety of situations, and they do so every day with a great attitude and under sometimes less than ideal conditions. So I'd like to go over a little bit, if you would, Mayor, before I get up and present something to them, and before Corey goes to his presentation, that, you know, we're here to recognize the group as an as a group, but also to recognize Corey for his leadership. And they have a department that responds to over 13,000 complaints and investigations last year. That's more than Oklahoma City. That's over 1,000 a month with over 80% resident compliance. So they do a good job of getting those things to be complied with when we bring up an issue. The cost of those work orders to the city was just over $150,000 to gain that compliance. Corey also oversees in his department the Dangerous and Dilapidated program that has brought to the council 156 structures, of which 31 were demolished at the city's expense, but 51, more importantly, were voluntarily taken down. That abatement procurement team is led by and worked on behalf of Corey and his team by Terry and Denise, and they do a really great job of doing that. They also work with the Solid Waste Department and the Lawton Enhancement Trust Authority to facilitate our annual trash off, which is held every year. And last year we had this past one we had over 250 volunteers together in Elmer Thomas Park to help collect waste. We collected well over 60 tons of waste during that event. And finally, Freedom Festival, where they help participate and put on an event along with Jason's crew in our Parks and Rec department. You see how that went. That was an extremely well received and the best, in my opinion, fireworks show in Southwest Oklahoma. He was and his team were instrumental in that. So what we want to do is Mayor, just get them to give you a presentation in a minute after I hand out these coins. Corey will go through that and show you guys exactly what they do all day and maybe a better understanding what they deal with and how they interact with our citizens.
Okay, so presentations next, or?
We'll give them the coins and then we'll
Okay, all right.
Thank you very much. Janet, thank you very much.
I get one too.
You do, thank you very much. Okay, so Corey, if you would, and Janet, here you go. Thank y'all very much.
Put this down. I apologize for dropping these important pins. These are, I love Lawton pins. They should never hit the ground, right? So we do want to thank this division. They are extremely important in what we do in the community to maintain our standards, and obviously under the leadership of Corey Bowen, but also this team is amazing. Josh and Terry, Jerry is new to the team, Margaret, and we have Brandy, and now we have Amber. So we're fully staffed now, but it wasn't always that way, but our standards still remain true. And this team has done an amazing job, whether it's dilapidated structures or Keep Oklahoma Beautiful, which we were a finalist for last year, but we are in it to win it this year. We will win it. So just thank you guys so much, and we wanted to recognize you and commend you for the great job that you do.
Yeah, I just want to say something about my team. You know, none of this could be done without the team. I mean, we had, most of the year, we only had 3 code enforcement officers and a few admin. And the admin, they kind of hold us together. They're our backbone. And then you have the officers out in the field, you know, doing the dangerous work. It just takes a team effort. And I don't think you could get a better team than we got standing right here, right now.
All right.
Did you hand these out? Okay.
Now, before we let them sit down, I want to say something. I want to make sure each council person, because each council person works with this department regularly, I probably get, when it comes to compliments, it's on this department more than any, because they've been so active in cleaning up the city in many ways, but especially through our D&D programs. And it dawned on me one day when I had 2 compliments on them in the same day, that we get all the compliments as the elected official in this department, and they frankly get sometimes faced with not pleasant situations dealing with the things that they have to deal with. So I appreciate them from that point. They're very important to the transformation that we're doing here in the city. They're very important to the D&D portion that the citizens said they wanted by a 2-to-1 margin in the Propel CIP. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to, let's start down here with Mayor Pro Tem. And every council person, if they just make the comments if they desire.
Corey, and this is to your team as well. I think as good as all the departments are in the city, I think your department and your work, your personal work, has made the most positive, visible difference in Lawton in the last probably 4 or 5 years. I think y'all do an excellent job. It's a tough job. And I just appreciate everything that you do. And the constituents in my ward appreciate everything that you do.
Thank you, Mr. Warren. Ms. Johnson?
My sentiments exactly. I also wanted to say that, you know, I work directly with you a lot, and you guys are, as soon as a complaint comes in, you get on it, whether it's through a phone call or email. And just to have some more transparency, I just want to let the citizens know that you guys do not pick and choose, because I have received a letter or 2 from the office myself on some property. So I just want to say you guys do an awesome job, and it's very dangerous. I don't think people realize the danger that you're in when you guys go to some of these abandoned homes. So, Josh, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Mr. Hampton?
Thank you, Mayor. Corey and I have become fairly good friends. I think Ward 5, the older ward, we've tore down a lot of structures in Ward 5. And I'm going to tell you, safety is really, really important to me. Your safety is, of course, being out in the field. But we've had a lot of fires in my ward, and I think that you've abated a lot of that, probably saved lives doing that, and I really, really do appreciate that. I do want to say for all those code enforcement officers and yourself and the support people that you have here, that I do not envy your job. Anytime you're dealing with enforcement and you're having to deal with people face to face, it's very confrontational, and that is not always pleasant. And I appreciate your calm demeanor, Corey, because that probably helps a whole lot with you and your team as you meet the citizens. But I just want to tell the citizens that it's really important to have people in this position. It's probably hard to find people that want to be in that position. So I want to just commend you, Corey, and everybody else, the support team and everybody, for taking care of all this for the citizens of Lawton to provide safety.
Thank you, Mr. Hampton. And Mr. Burke.
Well, Corey, he doesn't get to tear down much in Ward 4 very often, so, and that's not a bad thing, but he's always there to help us. And being the chairman of Lawton Enhancement, you have been amazing to help us. And when they came to us and asked us for bulletproof vests, I think to me that was the biggest wake-up call in the 15 years that I've been here, that you need a bulletproof vest to be a neighborhood code enforcement person. It just doesn't, you know, most people don't, you just don't think that. You just don't. And well, thank goodness we were able to, we said we'd get them for you and you got a grant and got them anyway, but I just want you to know that, you know, I know we send you to places that are not always comfortable. I know I've sent you to a few. But you've always taken care of it in a professional way, and you know, and we got to thank the Lawton Police Department and the people that help back you up. There's just a whole lot that goes into this. It's not just walking up to a house with high grass. So thank you all so very much for all of your hard work.
Thank you, Mr. Burke. Mr. Chapman.
To all of you, last night at my neighborhood's watch meeting, I was talking about this department and all the things that you face that people don't realize, and all the work and the good that you do. Something that's been very passionate with me is neighborhood pride and keeping our neighborhoods safe and clean, and you help support that, and I really appreciate each and every one of you, and congratulations to this recognition.
All right, thank you. Mr. Harris.
Yeah, Corey, you've been a tremendous help to me in the few months I've been on the council, and your whole team has, and credit to all of them. I know you're fighting an uphill battle. I know I just sent you something earlier today. So, and like Enrica, I have also received some of your wrath as well. So, but it just shows me that you're out there doing the job, and I really do appreciate it. It is a very, very difficult job, especially in this heat. It can't be fun to be out there going, you know, through dilapidated buildings and those neighborhoods. So thank you very much.
And thank you, Ms. Hankins.
To the citizens of Lawton, I want to say, these people are your friends. These are the people that make it happen. The council doesn't prevent litter on the streets or whatever, or demolished homes that need to be torn down. These are the people that do that. In fact, when I drive up and down alleys looking for problems, Amber is right there behind me. She doesn't let me do that by myself. So anyway, I couldn't appreciate any group of people any more than you guys. You guys are fantastic. Keep up the good work.
So I want to say thank you with a standing ovation. Council. All right. Thank you guys so much.
Mayor, before we continue to the next item, from me to you, I want to say thank you for allowing us to increase wages in that department. A lot of times those jobs are thankless in a way, right? And increasing wages has allowed us to maintain a satisfactory level in that department. I'm not saying that we're properly staffed for what we need to do, because we're not going to let up. We're going to keep going, and we're going to increase. And that may mean some additional personnel in the future, but at least we're working towards the goals of beautifying and decreasing the dangers for those type of properties and other nuances throughout the city. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. And now we come to the reports by the Mayor and City Council. And I'm going to start off talking about the Lawton birthday celebration, 121 years. and that's coming up on the 4th of August. We always do it the Thursday before the 6th of August, which is, unless, of course, the 6th falls on a Thursday. And this has really grown this last year from what we've done. And my compliments to the Arts and Humanities Department, Jason Poudrier and his staff, for the expansion of this. It is going to be absolutely some kind of wonderful, and I hope that you will come. Now, you can go to the Lawton Facebook page, the city government Facebook page, and learn about the time and all the activities that are going on there. And with that, we'll start with Council Ward 1.
Jason doesn't do anything halfway. So if you have a project that you're working on and you're working with him in coordination with a project like the LIDA Gala that we did a long time ago, we'll be developing that. Only we'll put a new twist on that, and Jason is working with us, so we expect miracles.
Raise the bar. Mr. Harris.
Jason, I don't want to put any heat on you, but I echo what she said, but you've done a fantastic job, and pleasure to work with you. I have three things. Is Mr. Rogowski here today?
Richard's on vacation.
Okay.
His last day, unfortunately for us, will be this coming Thursday, where he'll be back. We'll celebrate his last day. We will have a celebration for Richard, thanking him for his 20-plus years of service and wishing him the best in the next portion of his career, but he's not here today.
Well, thank you for stealing my thunder. I don't have to say that now, but Rich, wherever you are, we go back a long ways. Thank you for all of your service. I'd just like to say to my constituents, especially the Mission Village people, we are looking into the cemetery issues and trying to get those security issues fixed. And for the people at 14th and Logan who have been driving through a lake every day for several months now, we have fixed the primary leak, and upon that we found a secondary leak, which is also going to be addressed, I believe, tomorrow morning. So we're very close to not having a pond at 14th and Logan. So we're making progress.
Thank you, Ms. Chapman.
Jason was our speaker at our neighborhood watch meeting last night, and he gave us some ideas on what the presentation for this August 4th celebration, and it is spectacular, it's exciting, and I hope everyone comes out for it. You've worked really hard, you and your whole team.
All right, thank you. Mr. Burke.
First of all, I missed everyone. I've been gone a lot to D.C., so I've not been here much, so I've been in training, and so I hope they taught me something. I would like to say, as far as FISTA goes, just to give you an update, I'm on the FISTA construction committee, and we're about 25% complete. So if you have not had a chance to actually come by the FISTA since April, you will be astonished. Let us know and we'll get you in there so you can kind of check it out and see how much work has happened. And we are very, very excited about the steel beams and the things that are coming up. It looks like a whole different place. So please, if you get a chance, come by and do that. I too want to say that Jason has come to a lot of our meetings for LIDA, and you know, we all work together in LIDA. We all kind of help each other in ways, and he came and started talking about how the Freedom Festival would be different this year, and I believed him, kind of, and you know, we hadn't seen that. We hadn't had that kind of participation in stuff like that, and I thought it was an amazing job. You did a great job, and getting the zip, you know, all the things that happened, just totally different than we've ever had before, and so we're glad to have you on board, and I can't wait for you to help with LIDA more. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Burke. Mr. Hampton?
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to address Michael and his staff and the work that they're doing here in the city to take us, just in the 3 years I've been here, to take us to a higher level of professionalism. And I want to personally thank you for the presentation on the road systems to help the citizens know that we do have a plan. And that's important for all of you to know that the city administration and the council, we're planners, and we're going to plan for the future in an organized fashion. And in that, I've had a lot of comments about Ferris. I appreciate you guys making the decision to in what you're doing over there. And I say keep up the good work, and citizens, you have no problem placing your trust in this administration. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Hampton and Ms. Johnson.
First, I want to thank my fellow councilmen and councilwomen for supporting me during my time of my impaired vision. Thank you, Randy and Alan and Marianne and others, and also the staff for accommodating me during that time as well. Not at 100%, but at enough to be able to walk without hitting a wall. So those that, and also there were constituents that were concerned as well, so I want to thank you all for that. And also, if you have not been to the mall, here's another good reason to be there. A partnership with Teamwork Makes the Dream Work, The Next Step, and Cameron University's engineering department, and a lot of young people in the community put together. Kim Jones had a vision for the Greenwood Project, which is a replication of the Greenwood District in Tulsa, Oklahoma, prior to the devastation that happened there. So the kids were able to learn about what it looks like, learn about being a business owner as well as an entrepreneur. That display is now on display thanks to the Fistus partnership at the mall in front of Dillard's, and it has a lot of information that's lined up there about the businesses in the district. So if you want a reason to go to the mall and spend some money, there is a free attraction there that's going to be displayed for a while. And we're just pretty excited about that, and the kids were really excited. And thank you to those of you who were able to come when we were displaying that. So also August the 9th is the Neighborhood Watch, or the Ranch Oak Association is having their meeting at 6:00 p.m. If you'd like to attend that, for anyone in the Ranch Oak area, please give me a call for more information. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Warren.
I thought about the rest of the city staff as we were talking about neighborhood services. And I just want to pass along, and I hope that they'll all get that message from police, fire, everyone. There are a few naysayers in Lawton, and they're naysayers about everything. It doesn't really make any difference what the situation is or what's happened or what hasn't happened, or that's not the majority. The majority of citizens that I hear from on a day-to-day basis are impressed and are looking forward to more because we've given them a taste. And by we, I don't mean the council. I mean the people that are out there working every day in the water department and the sewer department. I mean, everywhere. I get compliments all the time. And I just hope that all the citizens can pass those compliments on when they get the opportunity, because the folks that work for the city don't hear those. Usually they get the people screaming at them as they drive by or whatever. The other thing is it's hot out there, folks. Take an extra moment and breathe, because everything gets heightened when it's hot like this. And take a couple seconds. Let's be kind to each other, and we're all in the same situation.
All right, thank you. And I'm going to end up with talking about today about noon. I went out to visit a Citizen Police Academy, and it was a youth academy, a one-week youth camp at the Impact Center in the old Jackson. I should probably say the formerly Jackson Elementary instead of old, shouldn't I? Scratch that. Anyway, in just a few minutes, I could see the powerful impact that Citizen Police Academy was having on those kids. It was awesome. And I would like to think that we could find ways to expand that to different parts of town. Don't know if that's possible, but it was great. My compliments to the police department. Now it's time for audience participation. Anyone having an item of business to present to the city council that does not appear on the agenda, please come forward at this time. Seeing none, I'll close. Come ahead, sir. thank you for coming. If you could give us your name and address, please.
Willie Carter, 6321 Bishop Road. I understand no one gets everything they ask for. My concern may not be the top of your concern, and vice versa. I will say this. I haven't figured out a way to get this entire body to do this, so I'd ask for volunteers. If you have not, I encourage you to take a drive, carpool if you want, from Sheridan and Lee, go south to Bishop before 9 p.m. and after 9 p.m. And maybe your concern or my concern would be your concern. If you haven't been on this road, it's probably the worst road I've ever been on. That includes Iraq, Thailand, Vietnam, Saudi Arabia. That's the worst stretch of road in Lawton. If you've addressed this before, fine. I may not have been at that council meeting, but I want you to take a ride on that road. There's no excuse for that road to be in that condition. That's all I got to say.
Okay, thank you for coming. And you can get with the city engineer, and I think he can tell you that that road is in engineering right now. Is there anybody else that would like to come forward on citizen participation, audience participation? Seeing none, I'll close audience participation. Moves us up to the consent agenda. The following items are considered to be routine by the City Council and will be acted with one motion. Should discussion be desired on an item, that item will be removed from the consent agenda prior to action and considered separately. Council, I've not had anybody pull any items. Do you wish to pull any? If not, I need a motion for approval.
Move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
And I have a motion and a second to approve as presented. Please vote. Motion carries 7-0. Brings up item number 23 under business items. Receive a presentation and consider accepting the financial statements and audit report on the City of Lawton for fiscal year ended June 30, 2021, as presented by Forvis LLP, formerly BKD LLP. Joe Don.
Mayor, I'd ask for this item to be moved to a little later on during the meeting. Our representative from Forvis has not arrived yet. She's en route here. Or is she here? I'm sorry, this is the first time I've got to see her, meet her face to face.
Just got here.
Right.
Okay. Okay. This is Cynthia, our head auditor from Forvis. Forvis used to be BKD. Cynthia.
I just want to express our appreciation for being allowed to do the audit for the City of Lawton. We have a great staff. They've worked very hard to assist us in getting the audit completed. One thing I want to point out about the audit is that the city, again this year, has received an unmodified opinion, which is the best opinion you can receive. If you look at the opinion, there is an emphasis of matter paragraph there, and that is related to the city's implementation of GASB 84, which deals with fiduciary activities. It really did not make a huge difference to the city's financials, but it did move funds that previously had been showing as agency funds to a different presentation. Under 84, they're not considered custodial, and so those one of those went to the Water Authority, the others went to the general fund. And then, so as you see a restatement in the financials, that is what that's related to, the implementation of that auditing standard. Everything else in the financials is pretty consistent. We have tested the CARES Act funding that the city received in our federal awards testing, and I believe the other major program that we've tested is transit. The other item that I wanted to bring to your attention is in future accounting standards that are applicable for this current year. The city is currently working on the implementation of the leases standard, which could make significant differences to your financials because it will put all of the leases on the balance sheet. Instead of having operating and capital leases, with capital being the only ones on the balance sheet, all leases will be put on the balance sheet. But they're currently working with Crawfords on the implementation of that standard. Other than that, always when you have new software, there are things to work through in that, which has resulted in taking a little longer to get everything done. But as they continue getting that implemented, I expect things to get back into a normal time frame. So that's pretty much all that I had to discuss on the audit. If anyone has any questions.
So the question I would have, and I think I know the answer, I hope I know the answer, from what you just said, it doesn't appear that there are areas of concern and that the citizens should be confident in the way that the city's doing business. Is that correct?
That is correct. We do have, there has been in the past and continues this year before they get the software fully implemented, some segregation of duties issues, but the city has policies in place to take care of those issues.
Mm-hmm.
So
how many years have you done our audit?
I think I have been doing it like 4 or 5 years now.
Okay.
And we had, at one point, I think we had someone from our Tulsa office maybe working on it, and then a group from our Oklahoma City office. And the last 4 or 5 years, I have been working on the audit.
Okay. Any other questions, council? Okay, so do we, this is to consider accepting the financial statement. So do we have a motion for acceptance?
So moved. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Discussion or debate? Please vote. And the item carries 7-0. Thank you for coming. That moves us to item 24. Consider receiving a presentation from Water Technology, Inc., WTI, regarding their evaluation of the City of Lawton's wading pools, and if necessary, make a recommendation to staff on next steps. Christine.
Good afternoon again. If you guys recall, back on December 10th, Council approved entering into a contract with Water Technology, Inc., WTI, for the evaluation of our wading pools. And so Robbie from WTI is here today to present his findings.
Mayor and Council, just so you know, I've tried to poach Robbie here to come help us work in our Parks and Rec department because he's got a background in it, but he flat turned me down. So I'm still looking for a deputy for our Parks and Rec department.
Robbie.
I haven't turned you down. Mayor and Council, hey, it's great to be here today, and I didn't know I was going to get a gift, and I love Lawton pen right off the bat.
Looks good on your teeth.
I got 2 more payments left on it, but hey, thanks for the opportunity very much. Make sure, let me just see if I can test this. Is there an on-off? Yes. Okay. So to remind WTI, we're a nationwide aquatics firm out of Beaver Dam, Wisconsin. We have an office in Dubai. We've done water parks in China. But the things that we've learned in the water park business, we incorporate in municipalities all the time. I'm out of the Fort Worth office, and our job, as I share with you, the scope is, when I was on my way up here with another engineer, we were talking about how much this means to somebody when we saw this plaque. And so our attitude coming up here was, hey, let's see what we can do to get these things operable and safe and in code. And that was kind of our task. That was our attitude about it as well. So my quick agenda here, Christine said I have 15 minutes, and I know that is gospel. So we want to revisit our scope, what we were charged with doing, give you a summary of findings and our conclusions, recommendations, just do a little bit of benchmarking with other cities your size, and then take your questions, please. So our site visit was to take a good look at these items, and if you look at I'm just giving the summary today, but if you have a chance to look at the report, we took every one of these items and worked it through on all 3 of the wading pools. And so we looked at the finishes in the vessel itself, and we checked water loss. You're losing some water, 3,000 gallons a day in these wading pools. City has even done some research, and it was even a little more than that. So what do we do about that? We want to develop some recommendations for repairs. That was our goal. And when I take you through our conclusions, we'll talk more about that. So right off the bat, when we're so concerned about ADA in all of our aquatics programs, whether they're renovations or whether they're brand new, ADA is very, very important. So these wading pools, as you might understand, are kind of startling. There's no way to get to them from the street or from the parking lot. It's very rough. And you're grandfathered now, but if we touch these pools, we have to bring them up to date per state code, per ADA. We have to make sure they're right. And that would be the only way we would do it. So when we saw these pools, saw the cracks, we've seen the pictures before we even got here, but to kind of experience what's going on, there's a lot of land, a lot of ground movement, which we see all the time. These pools were built, we didn't really have the geotechnical information that you really need to keep a pool in place. They can move 1/2 inch. Some of those cracks are 1 inch. So over time, this happens if the foundation's not done with the information we know now what to do. Also, circulation is very important. You may have heard about an incident in Arlington, Texas, where they basically had to clean house. They weren't checking their chemicals, they weren't uniform in their pool, and in a very rare case, only happened 22 times in 2020, the amoeba went up a child's nose. It's called brain-eating amoeba, and that child passed away. So that was a real big deal, and they are all real big deals. But the circulation in these pools is not uniform. It's not uniform with the chemicals to make sure it's treated throughout. It's not uniform in how we bring this water in or take it back out or filtrate it. So real issue with that. You see the lip all the way around the pool, and also just the depth of stepping over it. In any pool we do that is considered somewhat a wading pool, you would have a beach entry, so you have a gradual entrance into the pool. This is always a step for any age. And so all 3 of these wading pools have that issue. Ground movement, when we went over to Messine, I'm real impressed with staff. I've been really impressed with all the staff I've met here. They're always working, and they're going to make the best out of what they have. And so they were cleaning this pool. Water looked pretty good. Same issues. We're not circulating the water evenly. We're not operating per code in almost any way. And yet they work hard. You can see here there's cracks in this pool as well. This is one that was built in 85. 2 of the 3 were, but they just have a lot of movement, and so they're losing water as fast as they can put it in almost. It's not really fair to this pool. It was down that day. The water source was broken, and they were repairing it. But we noticed a lot of things that were pretty unique about this one as well. Lots of cracks. There is a Virginia Graham Baker Act law that is about a little girl that got her hair stuck in a spa drain, and so they completely changed everything in 2007. Everybody had to have VGBA approved drains by 2010. The ones we could check were out of date. They were on order, but at the same time, it's just another liability. This is unique in this little period of time. There weren't a lot of these done, but this has 3 skimmers. See the holes on the side that skim the surface water? It only has 3, but what we know is the wind usually blows that way, and so that's why the skimmers were put in on one side, and 3 of them. You can see also this pool's cracked, and when you have vegetation growing through the deck, you've really got the movement, and you really have a problem. So we just want to give honest feedback. Here's what we concluded. None of the 3 wading pools are code compliant, whether it be pool code or ADA. Talked about inconsistent disinfection delivery, tripping hazards all around deck, difficult access into the pool with no rails to hold on to. single entry for public access. There is a second fence for supplies and chemicals, but you shouldn't, if you're not familiar with it and there's some incident where you need to get out of there, there's only one gate. And they're non-ADA compliant. From the parking lot or from the street to the pools, you just can't get there. Children with disabilities. Poorly attended, and we understand. So that makes them heavily subsidized. The people we met there working were typically school teachers, great attitudes, really enjoyed visiting with them, and they just want to do something for the kids. But they just told us not very many kids use this. There's really nothing current in the way of amenities. I'll show you a few pictures in a little bit, but there's really not anything to do. It's too deep for a little toddler, and it's too shallow for any kids to play, splash, or learn how to swim for sure. They're also, sorry to keep going, but they're uninviting. They're chain link fence. They look like cages. And there's no shade, and shade is the biggest deal. When you do master plans, and I know you just did one with half and I read through it, they talk about shade all the time. They talk about trails, shade, water. So they're also in disrepair. The staff is working on it, but there's too much to do and too much money to spend. The mechanical buildings all needed roofs. They weren't really big enough to bring anything in and do something special. The water loss is significant. I talked about the Virginia Graham-Baker Act. They don't comply. And the skimmers, none of the skimmers work. And they're supposed to take debris off the top of the water and run it through the filtration, but they don't work. They're not operable. So let's look at the right side. The Lawton, your recently passed, I think, February master plan suggests that you might do a aquatics study, aquatics master plan. And we're jumping on and recommending that you do that. Just take an inventory, put a plan together. It could be a 10-year plan. And they typically are. But as you plan ahead, maybe you do one thing at a time. I'm here to give you pricing and what it would take to bring those back into code, but that would be a total waste of money. And you have to start over anyway, in our opinion. So I looked at that master plan and I looked what HAF said about aquatics, and we work with them all the time, so we know their language. We speak the same language. And so just taking some of these items one at a time, yeah, there is only one public outdoor pool. And when I tell you, we came here to do the wading pools, when we come to the city, we want to see what the whole aquatic program's like. It doesn't make sense if we just see a snapshot. It doesn't really help us turn around and help you. So we did go look at the pool, and this ramp is not an ADA ramp, and I don't think it was supposed to be. It's just another access to the pool, so that's fine. We see that HAF suggested in working with your team that you needed upgrades in your filtration system, and you certainly do. If you can't see the main drains, you can't see a child. And so, by this time of day, this was towards the end of this day, and then we came back by and just to see if it improved. So definitely this pool needs a new filtration system, and it could survive on that. But the pool is also not level. It has moved over time. And so I think we would all want to be careful on what kind of money we would put into this pool. But if we're going to use it, we need to be able to see the main drains. Yes.
Was that picture taken when the pool was open? Because I can't believe that it was open.
It is open. The staff was checking chemicals. You can check chemicals and it can read right, and they were doing that. And I saw what she was doing. And chemically, it's right. Filtration-wise, it's not. That filter's not doing the job. So you can see this part of the pool is kind of clear. I looked at that. I took a Facebook picture of 2021. That pool looks pretty good, pretty clear. So the filter's just kind of been failing over time, and they do that. Also looking at the top pool, there were a few kids in the top pool, but my gosh, it was hot. And this was June 1st, and so it was 88 degrees. I wish it was 88 today. It was a warm day. but there's just no shade out there. And in that master plan, they do talk about you need additional shade at all your parks. Well, when we went to this particular splash pad you have, it was a diamond in the rough. It was beautiful. There was 2 school teachers working there, having fun. Some of their students were there. There was 30 people there. I went by before I came here. There was 30 people this morning right when it opened. So this is a winner. This is a great way to get kids wet. This is a flow-through system. It's like taking a shower. The water goes away. So it's not like it can sit and get hot and get bacteria. It's gone. So if you're in a city that has the water, and this is still regulated, kids hit bollards, and there's a timer on it, and they'll run only for when that period of time is set. It was a great situation. The other one we see, you just added the shade. And it's not much, and it's probably not enough, but it is a step in the right direction. And the sun has to be just right for the shade to be straight down. So, but still an opportunity. What we see when we see splash pads like you have is very inexpensive rentals. And basically, the rental does bring in revenue, does help pay for the 2 school teachers, but it also gives people peace of mind that I've got one I'll set aside. And it's cheaper than going and eating pizza. So it's a great way to spend it. So when we see features like this and we see fencing, we always ask the staff, do you have vandalism? And sometimes you do. This fence is pretty attractive, actually. But you don't have to always have those toys above ground. This is an example of a pool that's fairly inexpensive to do, a splash pad, because all the elements are in the ground. They're floor sprays. When they go away, it dries up, and when the water's not running, you don't get in there and steal those. So this is an opportunity. You see this pool? This is right in the middle of a neighborhood, and they have these huge shade structures, which makes it really pleasant. And they reserve picnic tables. All right, here's the cold mountains of Denver. I'd love to show this. But this particular splash pad, again, the concrete, the way it's brushed and its coloring is really beautiful. But the water itself is just not that expensive. And they'll turn off the water and they'll have a wedding on this. They'll put tents in the grass and conduct a wedding, and the dance floor is the old splash pad. We've done several of these. Here's just a drawing concept. What I'm doing with this one, when the water goes off, there's a little stream. And like little kids, we love to play in a creek. I used to walk home across the creek, we move logs around, move rocks around, rechannel the water, and that's what this will do. This one will go off and it'll have a little river. It's about 120 linear feet. We think 50 kids can be on it at a time. Every mayor wants to celebrate the grand opening of the next splash pad. I love this picture. And so that's another example, though, of floor sprays, and they also have lights. So this one can be open, in the end of September, 1st of March. And there's no lifeguards, no costs. So also in your master plan, moving on here, it talks about how the community really needs, if we could just do a master plan or do a programming session where we think, what could we really use one of that would attract people all over this city? This is an example, perhaps. So here is a sun deck on a pool that's never deeper than 4 feet. It has a beach entry, as you see, and goes down to the basketball areas and down to the zone where they play volleyball. There's underwater benches where we can teach swim lessons. And we'd love to bring swim lessons back to Lawton in a bigger way. Also, fun activities that are very simple. There's always a line at this water walk. And that's just one of many things we can discuss so we can add fun to an aquatics facility that will last you for the next 40 years and that can be upgraded when needed inexpensively. Of course, the slides are very, very popular. This one's a run out, so it doesn't drop into a pool. It's its own water. And this is in Amarillo. And we complement them sometimes just with a lazy river. This lazy river can be a current channel for seniors to exercise and walk against the grain one part of the day, and then just relax and run around in a tube in another part. This is in Weatherford. This was an old pool we renovated. This was a rectangle. And they had these lap lanes that went down to 2.5 feet. You swam 120 feet, and the parents would stand in the water. And as soon as that kid got to them, they hit them on the head, they turn around and swim back. Because it's 2.5 feet's not deep enough. So we did a new course for them, and then that peninsula, and then made the other third a beach entry. And it's really popular. It also comments on indoor water. Boy, indoor water is expensive. But this is a multi-generational center. This is one rec center that does all the rec work. And as you can see, the exercise classes above the water and behind that glass. And you see water slides that go outside the building and back in. You see a current channel that has sprays around it that, again, the seniors exercise in the morning. It has 4 lanes of lap. That's, just 4. That's what they needed. And then it has another beach entry. So I show you these just to kind of give you a taste that what is going on in aquatics nowadays is something I think to really take a good look at. With your population's 90,000 people, NRPA, National Recreation and Parks Association, tells us that you need a pool for every 30,000 people. I don't know that we believe that necessarily. I think if we design a pool that does a lot of things, then it'll satisfy. And when people look at Lawton and look at what is there to do, and I see all the good work Neighborhood Services doing, I'd love for Parks to be a part of that too, because it will attract people. This is a pool, an indoor pool that was all lap lanes. We just changed half of it. This is in Athens, Texas. Has a beach entry, has the current channel that's so popular, our exercise area, and 3 lanes for families whose kids think they want to swim later. This is a rec center. Didn't have the money for a pool, so we did a splash pad outside that lights up at night. It's rented all the time by organizations in the community and by kids, by birthday parties, and it's really worked out well. Well, that's what I wanted to bring you today. Hope I'm not sharing all bad news. I think the wading pools, you probably knew what was coming. I can just tell you that on the drive up, we weren't ready to. We hate to take out diving boards, and we don't like to poo-poo on pools. But when we got up here, it didn't take very long to go, oh my gosh, this is too expensive for y'all to try to do something with it. But look at the parks that 2 of them are in. Fantastic. So. Thank you for your time today. Are there any questions?
Council, you have any questions?
What are you seeing nationwide? Who's the primary user of pools now? Is it younger? Is it older? Is it in between? Are these parks designed to be
I think that is a great question, and I'm going to tell you it is all ages. And I can tell you there's different amenities that make them really inviting. I'm a grandfather. 2 of my grandchildren are 7 and 6-year-old girls. When they have to go to the bathroom, where do we go? I'm not bringing them in the men's. They can't go in there by themselves. So we do these changing centers, we call them family bathrooms, where it's real easy to do those things. And so now grandfather's not concerned about taking his granddaughter to the pool. There's shade everywhere. There's beach entries everywhere. I showed you a lot of current channels, and that's because there's a good flow, and we know some lazy rivers, we want to just lay back and rest. But you exercise against that current, and it's fantastic. So the older folks, typically my age, come in the mornings. By 1 o'clock, it's open for everybody else. And when there's a lot of things to do, a lot of shade, slides, a lot of amenities. Some are very simple. Some are just floaties. The kids just get on and hug all day. So it is still all ages. I can't tell you that pool's a dying breed. And also when we do things like volleyball and basketball that you see there, we've got the teens to come back. the teens and tweens, we call them. And boy, those kids need something to do so they don't do something that's not good. So it's very important to us. Great question, thank you.
Mr. Hampton?
Yes, sir.
Great presentation. What a lot of fun pictures there. You guys
Thank you.
obviously do some good work.
Thank you.
And I'm thankful that we got our master park plan. Hopefully we can get some of this stuff in. I had a couple of questions
Yes, sir.
from some of my constituents in Ward
Sure.
5. And most of these wading pools are in my ward.
Okay.
But do you guys do historical evaluation as part of your evaluation?
Did we do it from a historical point of
Does
view?
your company do that? Not really, yeah.
Historical evaluations. Tell me what you mean about the older buildings?
Older pool, the wading, this is about the wading pools. I was just asking if you did, I know you do aquatics. I didn't know if your company.
Yes,
actually
we
did
do
historical.
a lot of them.
Okay. You do historical evaluations?
Not, I think you're talking about when it was built
Yeah, the historical.
and what
you know.
that importance would be.
No, not really. I just wondered if that was part of you guys' evaluation when you do it. That's good. That the constituent had a conversation with me about that.
Yeah.
But the second constituent was just asking, you guys build splash pads as well as other aquatic features than your company does?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Great. Thank you.
We do. Thank you.
Mr. Burke?
I just want to say that I'm glad you liked our splash pad because we loved it. But when we started it, if council will remember, those of you who were here, we just did a splash pad. And you're absolutely correct. We didn't plan ahead, right? So Lawton Enhancement came in and said, you know what, we're going to put up shades. We're going to put in tables. We're going to put grass out there. We're going to put trees. We're going to put shrubs. We're going to do, a structure in front, a brass, it was amazing. And I think we need to increase the time that we have it open because there are always kids there. I don't think I've ever been by there that there haven't been kids inside that splash pad. The good thing is you don't have to have, you're right, you don't have to have, anybody there nobody's going to drown.
Right.
And so, we have one more, we had a presentation the other day and I wasn't here, but council got it and approved the presentation in Shepherd Park. And we have a stage built up that has actually got the same spray jets that we'll use those when we're not having an event, but they'll turn
Fantastic.
off and you'll have actually a band if you'd like, or whatever is going to happen there on that circular piece. But I think that, wading pools they're just so much to maintain. That's why we did the splash pad in Elmer Thomas, because the wading pools, and to me, and I'm a parent, my daughter's 25, I know, but they're a little dangerous at times, and they're shallow, and small kids, it's just difficult to take care of all the time. And I have a pool myself, and to be honest with you, I wished it was full of dirt, because it costs a lot of money to maintain it, whether somebody gets in it or not. And to hear that these people are saying nobody's using them, well, number one is they don't look like I'd want to use them.
Yeah.
And then for our main pool, we've always had problems with our main pool, whether it be busted water lines, whether it be, we've had major problems. Yeah, floods and it fills it full and we have a mess. So, and nobody wants to get rid of pools.
Yeah, I know.
But nobody wants to spend the money it's going to take to replace those pools either. So, but I appreciate the presentation. I think it was very good and you hit on all the points that we needed to hear.
Oh, well, thank you. It's just sort of a summary.
Mayor, can I give you a statistic?
Yes.
So I asked the question of Dwayne and Christine. I said, what is the relationship, or at least the visitation rate of the splash pads and Matty Bill Pool? I didn't even consider the little splash pools. Matty Bill Pool. So it's about 12 to 1. So there's maybe 100 people that visit Matty Bill Pool on the weekend, and 1,200 people visit the splash pad and the other smaller splash pad that we have. So, sometimes we don't get numbers like that. We see people there, but 12 to 1, I think, is a pretty big ratio. So, the policy, you guys are the policymakers, y'all decide what you want to do with the pools or the splash pads or vice versa. But I think that's a number that y'all needed to know.
Dwayne?
Yeah, I just want to add, staff is well aware of the condition of all of our facilities. And in light of this report and what it's revealing to us, a lot of this wasn't a surprise. In lieu of that, though, our Parks and Rec director has had an idea that we've kind of rallied around, and I think it, with as we move forward with the Elmer Thomas Master Plan, we're already looking to put together a conceptual design for a water park to expand the existing splash pad potentially and bring that back to the council where we can incorporate some of the things that Robbie's been telling you about, maybe put in that aquatics type center there, make the splash pad a little bit bigger, more inviting, and incorporate that into that park. We're already looking at the expanding the playground there, and so to me it just really fits in that area to bring all of that together. So we're working on that. We've already contacted Happen Associates, and obviously they're putting the Elmer Thomas Master Plan together. So we'll be looking at that and be bringing that back to you at a later date.
Is there any recommendation from staff concerning I saw something in this about aquatics master plan. Is there any recommendation for staff concerning that?
We do not have an aquatics master plan in the process right now. I can tell you that based on the condition of the wading pools, I would hate for us to remove them without replacing them with something else. So if we were looking at eliminating or maybe doing something different with the wading pools, I think it would be staff's recommendation to come back in and replace them with a smaller splash pad. We have a couple located across the city, but I don't want to take that amenity away from those neighborhoods. They're used to having something there. So I would seriously recommend us looking at putting something comparable in there size-wise that would provide those neighborhoods with what they need.
Was there anything in the big master plan concerning overall aquatic needs?
They did do a survey, and the aquatics features, the aquatic center, there was significant interest in improving the aquatics across the city. I didn't realize it was a pool for every 30,000 people, but there was discussion in the master plan about doing some things to improve our aquatics.
Thank you. Mr. Burke.
I just want you to know that when we did do the splash pad in Elmer Thomas, it is designed to be doubled at some point. So it's already piped and ready. All you got to do is build it out. So it is ready to go. The plumbing's there, the filtration's, I mean, everything that gets that water through there. And the runoff water that we have from that, obviously everybody knows, goes into the Lake Helen. So yeah, it does. There's a big, trust me, I know. I was there. It does. There's a big container, and when that container gets full, it overflows down that little creek and goes right down into the water. So, but anyway, I want to know that because I was there watching it. Yeah, but I'd love for us to build it at the other splash pad. We can do better with just what we have. Take that silly fence down, fix it, put some more shade structures up. We're not talking about $1 million. You know, we can make it nice. And then we have another structure doesn't look like a prison.
Are you talking about the one in Elmer Thomas Park?
No, I'm talking about, I'm talking about the
George M. Lee
Yes,
Park.
yes.
I visited
We can
that.
fix it up. We can fix that. And
It's not in that
enhancement will
bad
help.
shape, but you're right. There could be definite improvements made there. It
Yeah.
doesn't have enough shade.
Right.
And I didn't realize we needed to have 2 gates on those kinds of facilities, but apparently we're supposed to do that as well. So,
But we could do decorative gates around there if we wanted to really put a gate, if we were concerned with that. Doesn't have to be a chain link black fence. Just my take.
Mr. Harris.
Yes. Did we take into consideration the YMCA pool and the pool at Cameron when accounting for the numbers?
Yes, we are doing a project in Edmonds with the YMCA, and I learned that this Y is an independent Y. So I couldn't get a visit when I was here with them. Their pool's down, so I couldn't see it in operation. So I didn't inventory it. I do see that in the HAF's report, they said there's some opportunity there with the school district. I don't know if the school district has a pool. With the base, I don't know if
The
that's...
base has at least two facilities I know of. One of them's a splash pad, one of them's a full pool.
So I'm also working on a pool called the Kiwanis Pool, and it is in North Glen, Colorado, but Kiwanis funded it. So, you know, partners... Uh-oh. Did I touch a nerve there? Are we... Rotary, all right. But I think there is some partnerships, and I'm curious if that family that did that block, if they're still around, one generation, and if they would be interested in carrying on what was started by their parents or grandparents.
Can you give them a cost estimate for if we were to do a replacement splash pad where those wading pools are at, just a smaller version, what we'd be looking at cost-wise?
I would hope that you would agree that you would do a geotech report on the ground that's moving and make sure that whatever we build doesn't go anywhere. And so when you do that, I think you ought to consider a flow-through system again because it's tolerated here. And so you're probably looking at about $50,000 to remove the old one. Are you in the construction business? 50, 75 to move it is what I typically see. And then we need to know whether we're going to do some piers or what are we going to do to keep that. You know, I have piers under my sidewalk at home because I was tired of replacing it 3 times. So I think you're looking 225 to 300 max, but you could use all those floor sprays and really knock the cost down because those vortex features, we buy them all the time, but they're 30 and 40 grand a piece. You've got 10 of them.
Versus repairing.
Yeah, you can light them up. They can all be in one can. And so, yes, sir.
Mr. Warren.
No, I was just going to comment, and I may be stealing Councilman Hampton's thunder here, and if I am, I'm sorry. But when we go back to the wading pools, there's nothing that's, I don't want to get rid of those. The structures need to stay, but there's nothing that says that structure has to be a wading pool. That structure could easily be a butterfly garden or a rock garden, something of that nature. It doesn't have to be a wading pool. And I know that there will be people that don't like that idea, but it's just simply, just from what we've heard today and what we've known for years and years now and just didn't want to admit, it's extremely expensive to repair them into a way that they're usable for a long period of time and make them ADA accessible. Once we make them ADA accessible, they're not period pieces anymore. So, we should probably think about reusing them as something else and then building a splash pad or some other facility there in the same area with those.
I was supposed to summarize today.
So,
Colonel, you want to weigh in on splash pads and wading pools?
Mr. Mayor, for what we have on the installation. We have 3 community centers that have non-lifeguarded, about 4.5 feet deep at the deepest. They're the type that you kind of walk right in, like I think you refer to it as a beach kind of entrance. Those are heavily used, kind of right up into some of the different neighborhoods. We also have 1 pool with lifeguards, deeper diving board in the back of the Patriot Club. So it's kind of one of the old club pools. And then I need to look at the splash pad. I know of one, but I need to get the status of it. That has a mixture of some shade, very similar to some of the things, sir, that you've shown. Community pools are used very heavily. I use them all the time with my kids. I kind of take them in the evening once it cools off a little bit. Notes I'm taking away as well is we probably could add some shade to those. But I think the community here could probably, would very much enjoy them. My wife has been out to the splash pad here in town at the park, and it was very positive about it with some friends. talked about it. It's been bugging me for a little bit to find out what's going on post, so.
All right.
Now, hopefully that answers what you're looking for, but I can address anything else.
I am interested in the, what is on Fort Sill, that is open to the residents of Fort Sill and the military-related residents of the area. Is that correct?
The 3 community center pools are associated with the community, the on-post communities. So if you're a resident and you're a tenant of one of the housing areas, you have access to use those 3 community centers. The pool at the Patriot Club is, I believe, open for non-residents on post or anybody. You pay. It's part of the morale welfare program. It's part of the MWR. So you can pay to use that pool. Summer pass, I'm not sure the exact cost on that one, but you kind of pay a pass for the summer. And then those costs go to pay the lifeguards and the maintenance portion of it.
Okay, so thank you very much. So the reason I ask those questions, I think it's important that we have 77,000 people in the city limits not on Fort Sill. Okay. Many of those have Fort Sill privileges, okay? So some of the, using 93,000 is not the number when we're calculating what we need. It's 77,000, and some of those have privileges for Fort Sill. So I'm just saying, keep that in mind as we calculate our needs, so that we don't get overwhelmed with a need that really Fort Sill is supplying a certain percentage of our population with those things. Thank you, Colonel.
Mayor.
Do we have other questions? Yes, sir.
I would just say that I think we're past the point of we need to make a decision on what we're going to do with these facilities. And just talking with Robbie, just to repair Mattyville Park, probably going to be in excess of $1 million. Mattyville Pool, in excess of $1 million. Whereas to rebuild it, probably looking at $1.8 to $2 million to construct a new one. I think that's kind of where we're at from a staff standpoint. The reason we felt it important to bring to you today and give you a big picture of what we're dealing with, because it almost feels like we're putting good money after bad. We're spinning our wheels and we're not getting anywhere because.
Mayor,
but that kind of makes it sound like an aquatics master plan needs to be done.
And
Michael.
We're trying to we're heading more or less that direction, and Dwayne has some ideas that he'll speak about in the item number 26, and he started to frame a little bit of those ideas. But I can tell you from staff's perspective and the relationship we have with council, if you guys determine the direction and provide the funding, we'll make it happen for the community. So whether it's splash pads or we repair whatever we're going to repair, or some combination of expanding Elmer Thomas Park with a beach entry type pool and volleyball courts next to it. Whatever you guys decide, once we get a direction, we're going to make it happen.
So, Council, maybe we can start with the motion and go from there.
Mayor, we want to.
Mr. Hampton.
Where we at discussion right now?
We can make a motion or we can discuss. Or we can make a motion and discuss.
Well, let me, if we're there, I'm trying to follow protocol. I just want to say a couple of things. I think that that is great that we're talking about the master plan and water features. I think that's fantastic because I do think the citizens need that. Councilman Warren did bring up a point that I'm taking. Council members, I gave you this letter from the State Historical Society. As all of you know, and most of the citizens, and probably everybody in this room knows, I've been working heavily to try to preserve some of our historical properties. If indeed those wading pools are not historical, then perhaps we can do what Randy said. We can tear them out. I mean, obviously everybody wants to tear those out. And I think it is prudent that we actually allow the State Historical Society to come down, which they want to do in August. I've already talked to Michael about this. They want to come down in August and do an inventory of, and if you'll read in the second paragraph, better get my glasses. Previous surveys had identified WPA-built resources in Legend Park, Union Park, Mattyville Park, Harmon Park, Highland Cemetery. Notable structures include wading pools, gateway arches, fountains, bridges, and pavilions. Our office is in the opinion that these structures warrant further study to determine eligibility for the National Registry of Historic Places. You know, we were quick to remove some of our historic properties earlier in the history of our city. But I think it's prudent that we at least allow these people to come down and do an inventory and evaluate those pools historically. We continually speak about tear out those wading pools and put something else over them. Well, you can put a wading pools in each one of those parks without tearing those pools out at all. I mean, I don't know, over the years, in 2017, I think they were discussing this, and I've brought it up. Why do we keep on bringing this up every year? Let's make a decision on it and go. And I think the resistance of some of it is the citizens in my ward like those pools. If there's 2 or 3 kids in there, there's pictures in last week's paper and in this Sunday's papers with a couple of kids in there. These kids don't have anything. And so a splash pad in that area was not out of the question for me. But why does it have to be tear out these I mean, that's a question I think that we're speaking about a little bit premature. Let SHPO come down, evaluate our historical properties, because we don't want to look in retrospect and say, man, we should have done something before, like we're doing with our downtown and some of the other areas. Listen, this is fantastic. So the stuff that you've been presenting, those look fun. The splash pad that we got, it's great. I'm not against all of that, and I don't want anybody to think that. I think the master park plan needs to go on. But I do think that they're coming down in a month. Let them come down and evaluate and inventory and take a look at those splash pads historically. The caveat is, I know it's about money. If we're becoming a designated historic city, we're going to get a designation. With that, we will be able to get funding. With that funding, that has nothing to do with the money that we would spend on an aquatic center or any other things in the park. We would get outside money coming into our city that want to preserve from the federal and state level to preserve the historical properties that are in our city. And that would take care of all those costs. Real quickly, I was talking to Mr. Pierce. He said the city of Ada has a bathhouse and a pool that they are evaluating and going to put on the historic registry. And the reason they're doing it is to get funding to be able to repair it so that they can keep that feature. I just think that we need to give it a month for the Oklahoma Historical Society to come in. And with that, and I think that we've talked about the master park plan and pools, but I think that we also, it talks a lot about what we're going to do with the wading pool and whatnot. But I'd like to make a motion to table this item until SHPO has an opportunity to come and inventory the property and issue a report directly to the staff to work and accommodate SHPO's process as they're trying to evaluate these properties.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Would you read that again, please?
Yes, I move to table this item until SHPO has an opportunity to come and inventory the property and issue a report and direct staff to work and accommodate SHPO's process.
Is there a second?
I have a question.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Discussion or debate? Mr. Warren.
Well, my question is, and I wanted to make sure that there was no misunderstanding, I don't think we should ever tear those pools out, but I just think that they probably will have to end up being repurposed. But will that come to council before it's placed on the National Historic Register? Because I have a real problem with doing that if it's not clear as to what we have to do with the property. Because we found out with this building that you don't just get on the register and then everything's hunky-dory and people give you money. That's not what happens. What happens is they say you will do this, thus, and so, and if this, thus, and so means that we spend $1.8 million to get a pool working again, I don't know that that's what everybody's going to be able to afford. So I just want to make sure that it is going to come back before we actually put it on the register.
Yeah, that can happen. You're right, there's probably be stipulations that tags on some of that money, but their purpose is to make recommendations. So they may recommend, like you said, to keep the pools and use them for other purposes, but no doubt there will be money that is available. And one of the reasons that we haven't got that, Councilman Warren, I think is because we haven't had that designation yet. And we're working on getting that designation so that we can work with SHPO at that point. Most of the paperwork doesn't even show anything about Lawton from SHPO as far as being connected with them on any of our historical artifacts that we own as a city. And I think that we own those, and I think that it's important that we at least be prudent and be patient enough to allow some actual studies to be done on those pools.
Councilman Hampton, how long will it be for this, when we get a report from this organization?
Richard and I were working on it. We've already contacted them about the designation, and they've already said that we qualify for that designation, and they're going to be telling us what the next steps are. I'm forwarding all that stuff to the city manager. So the designation is right there. They've pretty much said we've got that. Once we get that designation, then and they come down do the inventory, I think that they're gonna actually give us options on what we can do and the monies that are available.
I'd like to open the discussion up because I'm liking the idea of understanding what we need to do citywide. With the master plan that the conceptual plan that we just have for Shepler Park, with what we have for Lee West, as soon as we get Elmer Thomas, and especially if we have a water master plan or aquatics master plan, I think we're ready to make some decisions by the first of the year. When is our expected date of the Elmer Thomas master plan? I couldn't hear.
We don't have an exact date on that yet, Mayor, but we can get with the Hoff and Associates and get a date. Do you have a date, Christine?
I think we need to tell them we want to make decisions by the first of the year, and we're ready to move on all of these. And I would like to open up discussion. Am I the only one that's liking the idea of what do we need to do aquatics-wise in the city? What do we need to do, taking into account the services that are available on Fort Sill to many of our citizens? Am I the only one interested in that?
Well, no, I also believe that we need to at least think about Cameron University has a pool, the YMCA has a pool. What can we do and we've got to have those discussions. We've got to have discussions about that, but at the same time, you know, we've talked about having an east side splash pad and having a west side splash pad, and we've done all of that. We've been all over the world, so we go, this is the way Lawton works. We go all over everywhere, and then we finally end up with one thing. But I think it's smart for us just to say, what do people want? Does everybody want to go to Elmer Thomas Park and do everything in Elmer Thomas Park? If that's the case, well, let's put it in Elmer Thomas Park. Or is it that we need some on the west side and some on the east side because a lot of people would like to go closer to their home? I think you have to think those things through. We have a park we have Lee West Park that would be a great place for one. We have one on the East Side Park that'd be a great place for a splash pad, or even just the fountains that shoot out. I mean, kids just want to go where it's wet, and the parents want to go and let them be there. So, you know, I mean, it's just proven over and over, and I just don't want this to drag on forever. I mean, and that's sometimes what we get into when we do more studies.
Mayor, I don't know if you're referring to the historical study, because all that does is keep us from tearing out. Well, the motion, from what I can tell, all it does is slow down any action on the wading pools. It doesn't keep us from doing other things associated with aquatics.
Can we amend our motion to just talk about the wading pools that you're concerned with? Yes. Could we amend that? Because then we could move on with any other places that we thought of. We could be working on those currently.
Well,
am I wrong?
Could we make could we make a substitute motion to table this for 90 days? And in the meantime, we'll have the report from the state. and that will give staff some time to at least find out how long it's going to take to do an aquatic study.
Mayor, we can certainly put together an aquatics master plan and incorporate Mr. Hampton's report and having the SHPO come down and put it all together in one plan and bring that back.
And when can we have that?
We'd have to reach out to HAP or WTI, and they would be the ones that we would rely on to help us establish what that looks like. And then it would go through the process, just like we're doing the Elmer Thomas, the Lakes Master Plan, and all of those. We can come back to you and bring you an all-encompassing plan of what it looks like.
Are my expectations too high to be able to have this by late fall?
How long will it take you to turn that around?
I think by the end of November, you'd have something in November.
End of November.
Okay, that's good. That's late fall.
With that said, I think that if you're incorporating all of this, I don't want to get all this historical stuff kind of lost in the mix. And without a report from them, I mean, it may be that when they do the report that those pools have no historical value. And that'll be kind of a moot discussion. So I'm going off of what you said about you doing historical evaluations.
Yeah, if I may, I got to really understand your question with your motion, and
Yes.
I apologize, I wasn't focused on what you were.
Yes.
And so, yes, we would need somebody that does that all the time. It's not us.
So do you have contacts with SHPO then? Oklahoma State?
No.
Okay, because I think they're the ones that are going to need to do the valuation, not your company. So you would have to have them. But Michael, I think we have to set ourselves up as a designated city first, and that agreement is between the city, isn't it?
The state historical preservation designation would be, of course, the state recognizing the city as that, and the application process, as we talked about before.
Yes.
Well, then,
I think they probably should be separate, is my opinion.
I think, I'd like to withdraw my second, because I think this is muddying up the water. I really believe that we need to separate the two things and move forward with doing what we want to do and trying to get a plan together by November, figuring out what's going to happen with your, if it's going to be a splash pad or whatever.
It's not about the splash pad, it's whether it's designated.
Right. Whatever it is we need to do, but
So I think we're okay. We've got a motion to table. This item is only about, as written, splash pads, wading pools. So we're tabling any action on the wading pools. We're directing staff to work with SHPO, right? And if somebody will just tag on, direct staff to
exactly
move forward.
I don't have any problems with adding that to my motion.
What were you saying, Mr.?
Well, I was just going to say, just add in direct staff to bring back a aquatics plan.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on for me a minute. Will you accept that friendly amendment?
Yes, I will.
Okay, so the motion that we're voting on is to table the items associated with the wading pools, direct staff to work with SHPO, and direct staff to bring back or work towards a master plan for aquatics. Does everybody understand the motion? I hope you do. I don't think I can repeat it. It was accepted by a friendly amendment. Do you friendly second?
I do.
We've got it. Let's vote.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
A little more discussion. Robbie. So, time frame for construction of whatever, if we're going to do splash pads, to get it done, ready for next summer, is that possible?
It's close, but I think it's possible. I think the biggest problem is getting product right now.
Right, okay, I got you. Secondly, is there, in response to Councilman Warren's question, is there any sort of repurposing or recycling that we could do if these turn out to be historical, that we can do with those wading pools that are in existence now? And do you have suggestions?
Again, our plan was to come up and inventory what we had with in the mindset that what's it going to take to redo these. That's why in the study you have every pump and gauge, everything all labeled, because think, okay, what if we replace these? So I don't know exactly until we visit with staff. If you don't, yeah, really staff is going to drive this and we're going to do whatever they ask us.
Ms. Hankins.
I was going to say, if the wading pools are a safety issue, not good to be using, then no matter who dedicated them, I don't think that they would want children using the pools if they're not appropriately safe. I mean, I know my great-grandparents and whatever, if they donated something, that would, the thing that would take priority over that is, are these safe to use in the meantime?
Well, they're not safe to use in the meantime, but they can be repaired. It's just going to be very costly, is what you said, right?
Well, they would have to be removed and replaced in the shape they're in.
Well, I think that.
And I know that's the issue you have, is removing is tough.
Well, I think that if you don't do historical work, then I think we need to let SHPO kind of decide, because they do that kind of stuff. They take older pools and refit them and pay for it.
Yeah, and they might hire an aquatic designer, and therefore we'd be.
Exactly.
We need the information from SHPO. So it sounds to me like we're ready to vote. Please vote.
Amen.
I apologize for running long, but thanks for the discussion very much.
Motion carries 6-0. Thank you. All right.
The rest of them take that long, be done at 10.
Okay. I hope we got that out of the way. I'm a little rattled. We ready to move on? 25, consider request to waive requirements for permits and fees for residential garage sale permits for citywide garage sales scheduled for the month of July 2022, and allow the residences to hold the residential sale for up to 5 days in order to promote citizen participation in the event. Janet.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, Council. The License and Permitting Department received a request from an organizer asking us several weeks ago to waive permits and also license fees for a citywide or community-wide garage sale that they plan to have 2 separate weeks. As you know, staff is charged with doing exactly what you have directed us to, which is to issue permits and also have a fee for any type event like this. For a garage sale, it would be $5.75. We received the notice kind of after everything was already planned, and so what we offered to do was to bring that request to you today and have you consider whether you want to waive the permit and also the fee for these garage sales. We have had several come in and buy their garage sale permit. But there's another event scheduled for next week. It's a 5-day event, and our municipal codes stipulate a 3-day event and also the $5.75 charge. So we're asking for you to direct us as to what your pleasure is.
Now, you said that, but it says the recommended action is to approve. Is that correct? Staff is recommending to approval?
We very well could, but I'm sorry.
Okay,
It really is up to you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Burke.
I'll make a motion that we approve it, and maybe that'll help people pay that 15% water bill increase.
I want to make a substitute motion. No, not really.
We don't have a second yet.
But
hold on just a minute. You moved for approval, right? Okay, we have a motion for approval. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Approval and waiver. And a waiver, which is included in the recommendation.
These attorneys, a waiver. Okay.
Okay. And we do have a second. Now, discussion or debate?
I was only going to say that I don't have a problem with this at all, except we need to make people aware that we can't tell them that they don't have to pay sales tax, because as I understand right now, you have to pay sales tax on garage sale profits. That used to be part of the deal anyway. And
Yes,
so we are not forgiving that, and we don't have that ability.
We, actually, there is a state law in place that does require sales tax. However, tax attorneys have said that if you're selling something at a loss from what you purchased it for initially, no sales tax is due. But when you come in and get a permit with the city for a garage sale, there's also a sales tax form that we give you so that you can report sales tax back to us.
But no permits necessary.
Yeah, and we're not going to issue any legal advice on that topic, just to be clear.
Ms. Hankins.
Janet, can you briefly, very briefly, tell us how that's going to work? Is there a map for where to go? Like if it's the west side of town, that's a very big area. Do they know where those houses are going to be, where they will go? Or, I mean, it just seems like it's out there and there's...
Since this is not a city-sponsored event, I'll let Krista Ratliff take over.
Hi, I'm happy to inform and update on this. So the community members came to the chamber and asked us to become a partner in this. So we agreed to that. So that's why the request came to council a little bit late. So next year we'll plan ahead. But we have a system set up where all the people that are having garage sales, whether it's last weekend or this weekend, are submitting their address to the chamber. Then we're entering that into a database, which then builds a map through MapQuest for them. So it'll be on their phone, it'll route them to the houses that have registered for the permit for last weekend, or this weekend have just registered for the garage sale with no permit.
So thank you. And I have a question. Is this being advertised broadly to bring people in to buy our junk and take it out? Or are we just going to trade junk going to each other's garage sale?
So either way, it'll keep stuff out of our landfill, but we are advertising all over Southwest Oklahoma through social media and other outlets as well. We did have an advertising budget for this.
Okay, thank you. I was just worried about the landfill. Now, are there other questions? Yes, sir.
Mayor, I have spoken with both Krista and Janet about this, and my concerns are, as we proceed with this next year, that, as Krista and Janet both spoke about, we do a little more planning. What I don't want to see happen is we end up having a lot of garage sales and a lot of leftover material left that gets set out to the curb the month, and we just came through there for bulk trash collection, and then there's going to be a lot of waste out there in the community. So if we can time this next year to where they hold the event and then bulk comes through like, the next week or whatever, then it won't sit there very long. I don't know if there's a lot of waste out there right now, but that was my major concern. And my other concern was looking at the code. I didn't see a need to ask for a variance on the code from 5 days to 3 days. In my opinion, 3 days was enough, and the code already allowed that. So those were my two concerns when I spoke to them about this.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the item, which includes waiving the requirements for permits and allowing 5 days. Further discussion or debate? Please vote. Motion carries 6-0. Moving us to item number 26. Consider discussing the upkeep and routine maintenance of city parks and making a recommendation to staff regarding the Adopt a Park program and the outsourcing of park maintenance. Dwayne.
Mayor, Council, this is probably going to be one of several here in the next few months, agenda items that pertains to parks. Obviously, we just talked about the aquatics piece. Staff is going through the master plan, identifying the areas of the recommendations and the things that plan kind of laid out. Today, we want to talk to you specifically about park maintenance and specifically the difficulties and challenges we're facing with respect to maintaining our parks. It's no secret we get a lot of complaints. We don't take care of the parks like we should, and there's a good reason for that, because our park staff is severely understaffed. If you look at the master plan, it tells us that we're about 43 personnel short of the national average for the number of acres and parks that we maintain. We're not asking to add 43 positions. It's not feasible, and frankly, I don't think that we can afford that. But we are looking at other options with respect to what the things that we can do, such as repurposing parks, identifying those that maybe don't really serve anybody per se. That we've identified several of those. The other thing we're looking at is the Adopt a Park program, which we previously had installed, and it's kind of just went by the wayside. We'd like to reestablish that piece. We do feel like the addition of maybe up to 10 additional park employees would be a drastic improvement over the staffing we have now. It'll nearly double it. We have approximately 14. I think we have 15 actually budgeted, but I think we have 14 actually doing the job right now because we're never at full staff. So we're asking for you to consider that as well. The other thing we've already started doing is making some improvements on the equipment that we have. There was a lot of that was outdated. We've started purchasing some of that. The number of acre area that we're maintaining is 700 plus. And in addition to that, we also maintain 3 of our community centers, Patterson, H.C. King, and Owens. Those are not really parks, they're facilities, but our park staff maintains those. So we have those out there as well, and then also the Mattie Beal Park. Park? Oh, well, that's right. The medians, right-of-ways, all of these things historically for the city of Lawton have fallen under the Parks and Rec direction. And so they've been maintaining a lot of this. They really don't belong in the Parks Department, but we do it. And so we're entertaining, or at least putting out in front of you today for your consideration. Give us some direction on what you would like to see. If you'd like to see us re-implement the Adopt a Park program, we want to know that. If you'd like to see us look at implementing some staffing increases, we want to look into doing some of those things. We also are looking at outsourcing some of the maintenance areas. So we just, as a kind of find out what it would cost, we looked at the Owens, the H.C. King, Mattie Beal Pool, and Patterson Center, and just an annual cost to maintain just the grounds of those is roughly $90,000 a year. That's if we paid a contractor. Just the Mattie Beal Park was $20,000 a year, just to mow the area and keep the landscaping up and in shape, keep the trees trimmed and those things. It takes time, it takes money, and it takes equipment, and we really don't have enough of any of it. So we would ask that you give
So
us.
why would we not, apparently we don't have an Adopt a Park program now, and you're asking, do we want to re-implement it?
We're asking, yes, and specifically that.
Why would we not want to implement an Adopt a Park program?
Mayor, I'll just say that LEDA is the one that came up with the Adopt a Park program locally. The problem that we ran into was the city didn't back the Adopt a Park program. When I say the city, I mean the city as a whole. At the time, we didn't have money because, for example, MacArthur Park, they take care of their own park. They mow it, they pick up the trash, all that sort of stuff. They asked for it to be made ADA handicap accessible. Just cut the curb and make a thing so that they could go down there and play, right? We didn't do that. Well, they're still mowing it. But my thing to you is that you have equipment that is broken off, laying on the ground for months at a time. And so finally, when I go to those association meetings, they're angry because they're mowing it, they're taking care of it, and we're not doing our part. So we started getting a lot of flack on LEDA's side that we're asking these people to do it, and we had quite a few parks around town that people were adopting that park. But we have to do our part, which means we have to upkeep our part. They're not going to go out and buy the pieces of equipment, is what I'm saying. So I don't mind LEDA getting back involved in that again too, and helping with that. We'll push that forward, but we got to make sure we have city backing that we're going to be able, when they come to us and say, hey, the swing set's completely falling down, we actually go out there and fix the swing set.
We currently have an evaluation process in place right now. Antonio has been going around looking at a lot of the parks, trying to do some inventory on repairs that are needed, and we have a lot of them that are in disrepair. I was really kind of blown away at the number of facilities where we had restrooms with holes in the roof. Not sure how long they've been there, but we're trying to start making corrections there. I think we envision the Adopt a Park program as not only just the community itself maybe taking a part of that park and helping clean up the trash, but extending that to potential businesses who would like to maybe put a sign up, this park adopted by X, business. And maybe they invest a little bit of money into doing some repairs and taking some of those dollars and reincorporating those back into those park facilities.
And we did, Dwayne, we did that as well. We put signage up to show who was adopting the park. We did a lot of that back a few years ago. So we really worked hard on it. But again, like I say, if we'll do our part, I believe those people will come back to us.
Yeah, with what you're saying, Jay, is Michael, I don't know, maybe you guys know, maybe we can offer some incentives to the citizens. I don't know if they can take some off their water bill if they're part of that. Or I don't know what's legal.
Park of the month.
Okay, I said a bad thing. I take that back. Maybe. Help me, Jay.
At the end of this meeting, I'll give you his phone number.
Maybe some incentives, maybe some type of incentive program, seriously.
We
Maybe
give them
some
a hot
type of
dog
incentive program to maybe help the citizens. The advertising is a good thing. I mean, that's part of an incentive thing that would maybe.
Maybe you could
help.
do something where you could give away like we do for Yard of the Month. You could give some sort of an award for Park of the Month. And Lita can do that. We'll help do that. And we'll help do that, put them in the banquet, give them what they need as far as, people want to just be told that they're doing a good job. And we want to tell them. So I think it's a great idea that we do it again.
Mr. Warren.
I have no problem doing this. And I don't know about cart and horse and all that as far as the parks that we may be losing, some of the pocket parks and things like that. I don't know what we should be doing first or second or what, but I'm all in favor of Adopt the Park, and I'm not so sure about the encouraging people to do any work or maintenance there. And I'm not an attorney and I don't offer opinions, but I'll leave that up to him. But just for the record, no deals on the water bill.
Mayor.
So,
Mayor, Council, I would like to move to direct the staff to establish a plan to identify park areas where the maintenance can be outsourced, reestablish a Adopt a Park program, add up to 10 additional park maintenance personnel, and identify parks that can be repurposed in order to reduce the number of acres the city maintains.
okay.
I'll second the
A
motion.
well-stated motion. And a second, discussion or debate.
I will give you a quick update on the playground equipment. We are having a company come in from out of town to do a kind of a walkthrough on our playground equipment. A lot of the pieces are outdated. You can't buy parts for anymore. We have been told that there is a somewhat of a buyback program. So we are reaching out and exploring that option as well. If there's an option where we can even, if they'll buy back even a portion of anything, instead of just throwing it away, we are looking into that also. So for playground equipment, we understand that everything almost is outdated where you just can't buy the pieces. And so it's a total repair and replace type of a thing.
Okay, I do have a question. On adding 10 employees, is this a change to the budget? Was this in the budget we just passed?
So that would be no. And what I have to do, is I have to find those 10 people somewhere in the city. And that's the thing, right? 10 additional people would be roughly, about $500,000 in additional cost if it were to be added to the budget. I am asking for us to be able to go look and see if we can find those 10 personnel in the budget that we currently have. We have a number of vacancies. Every one of those are much needed. But when we start comparing what we do to others, and I do compare to other cities, I got a good friend that works in another city that will remain nameless, but they have 29 park maintenance personnel, for maintenance only, of which 8 of them are part-time. So they have roughly 25 full-time equivalents. If we were to add 10, that would put us at 24 full-time equivalents, and the acreage is roughly the same. So what Dwayne and I look at is MPRA estimated average, which Mayor, I think you made a good point about talking about Fort Sill and that number of citizens counting against us. We did not consider that. We just looked at an average of what other cities are using, and anywhere from 20 to 34 people. Our city to the south has about 35 or 40 people. Some of our neighbors to the north are in the 20 to 25 range, mostly being around 25. So to answer your question, I'll have to find those people in the budget.
In the current budget?
In the current budget.
Thank you.
Yeah, can I ask a question, Michael?
Yes.
I think we had discussed the exacerbating maintenance and grass cutting that Parks and Rec does, and we were talking about outsourcing some of that at one time. Was that? Can you kind of update us?
I've worked in a number of cities, and I will tell you, traditionally, right-of-way maintenance is not done by Parks and Rec. Traditionally, right-of-way maintenance, and I don't want to freak Larry out, but it's done by streets. They don't have the people either. So when we start looking at this, they don't have the personnel to do that right now as well. They have barely enough and really don't even have enough to do drainage mowing and maintenance. So there are areas that we need people, but we also have a number of positions that aren't filled that we need, and you can name it what they are, from concrete workers, asphalt layers, solid waste workers, Parks and Rec personnel. We can go down the list. So I'll have to find those personnel in the budget. But I think what Dwayne was pointing out is, how do we tackle this problem? I think part of it is personnel, part of it is outsourcing, right? And it's going to be a combination of those things, because in my opinion, Parks and Rec should not be doing right-of-way mowing, and we'll have to figure that out. Now, when we talk about outsourcing of buildings, this building is outsourced as far as maintenance, groundskeeping. And I foresee that same vision of upkeep for some of our centers, like Owens and H.C. King and Patterson, and also if you add Matty Bill to that, that's $90,000. Again, we'll have to find that in the budget, which is not easy to do, but what we wanted to do is bring to the council the cost of some of these things. So when you're asked, or I'm asked, what's the cost of outsourcing or performing maintenance, well, it's a great deal of money. Currently right now, all of our mowing is close to $900,000 for mowing in general. That's right-of-way mowing that we do outsource, and other mowing is $900,000. That's not counting what Parks and Rec mows. So you just start to get an idea of what the things cost, and as we get more data, we're able to refine our budget. And you know, I believe in data. I think they drive a lot of things, but it's hard to make really pointed decisions without data to drive them. So that's where we are.
I just want to say one thing. I did see a new tractor today with one of the new side mowers going down in front of Lawton High School mowing. So congratulations. I'm glad you finally got that piece of equipment. It's being put to use, I noticed today. But I do believe that outsourcing these medians, we started this years ago. We didn't have, back when I first came on, grass was knee-high all across the city. And are those of you who have been here long enough? No. We had a mess, and people were mad all the time at us. It looks so much better. We need to do Sheridan Road. We're trying to handle it right now, and we're not very good at it. We just don't have the people, and it gets high, and people get angry because we just put new landscaping in. And so I have LEDA members saying that grass is higher than the flowers. I just want to say that, you know, we always want people to move here. We want to have economic development and industrial development, and that comes with beautification. That is, as Dr. Bolino would say, that is economic development, right? So mow what we have to mow and do what we have to do. We're going to have to pay the money. And sometimes you got to think, though, a lot of times we think about how much it's costing us, but think about how much it costs us to employ one person. It's not the $15 or $18 an hour you pay them, right? It's everything else. Payroll taxes, everything else, right? Retirement, all the other stuff. So all I'm saying is we got to weigh all of that. And then these companies bring their own equipment. We don't have to buy it. If it breaks down, guess what? They got to go fix it. And so we're not out having to buy millions of dollars in more mowing equipment. And that's just my take on it. I just think it's a much cleaner deal. You can call them. If they don't mow it right, you tell them to go back. So it's worked, and we know it's worked across the city to have the private contractors that we have.
Mr. Warren.
I'll preface this with, I don't have a single problem with contracting stuff out. But, and Michael's really good about this, but we need to always make sure that we're for sure that's what we want to do, because once we contract it out, it's not as big a deal as, say, refuse or something like that, but it's very difficult to start doing it again because we won't have any of the equipment. Once the equipment that we've got falls off, then we won't be replacing it because we'll be contracting that stuff out. So we have to always weigh that, and I'm confident that Michael will do that.
Can I clarify one thing? And I think this is, the 10 people is just to help maintain parks. We're talking about outsourcing mowing for the centers and Matty Bill Pool, plus additional outsourcing for right-of-way mowing, so we can utilize those personnel better. I know a lot of folks that do a lot of things similar to this, and right-of-way mowing, for example, is over $1 million a year in some cities to just do right-of-way mowing. That's just right-of-way mowing. That's not on top of what we do in Parks and Rec. So we're just trying to give council and our citizens an understanding of what it costs to maintain and mow at a frequency. If we were to double the frequency that we mow right now, we mow 12 to 14 times a year to 24 times a year, we would double our budget to 1.6, closer to probably $1.8 million. So it's just those numbers, and I think sometimes we get caught up in what we want and what it looks like and making it look good, and I'm all about that, but I also want y'all to know and our citizens to know what that cost is.
One more question before we vote.
Great.
Can we, just a minute,
I'm sorry.
please.
I thought you were telling me.
How long is it going to be before you come back to us with the recommendations on trimming down our park properties?
We're currently working on that plan as we speak. We are planning on having some ward meetings to discuss the parks in each respective ward, to give the citizens that live in those areas an opportunity to come and talk about their parks and the staff recommendations on which ones that we're looking at repurposing. I will say some of the difficulties we're dealing with are kind of self-inflicted because of the code, the way it was written for when you would plat neighborhoods, they would designate specific areas, and so we ended up with some grounds that really weren't suited for parks. We've got a lot of areas that are considered parks that are more drainage maintenance, and to mow them to the park standard, it takes more mowings as opposed to if you were mowing them like a drainage maintenance canal, you don't mow them as close or as low, and the requirements are different. And so as far as how long it's going to come back, I think that we've got them scheduled sometime in August, these meetings. And so after those meetings have been done and the public gets an opportunity to voice their opinions, we would draft that plan and bring it back to council for approval. I would say fall.
Fall.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's good information.
Mr. Hampton.
Yeah, that's good information there. Thank you, Mayor. Back to the item of adopted parks. Are we already compiling a list, or is there any way that maybe the council can help to try to get because it's you mentioned businesses, you mentioned neighborhoods, so that's a two.
We provided that as an attachment. It's just the existing Adopt a Park program or the one that they had before. We'll probably go back, revisit that, make any revisions that need to be made if we want to increase or open that up to some other entities, or we can make those changes and then implement that.
And Christy's welcome to, she comes to our LEDA meetings, so bring any of those to us and let's put you on the agenda and let's get some of these things started back and get some signage out.
Let's vote. Do you remember what you're voting on?
No.
Okay. Motion to direct staff to establish a plan to identify park areas where the maintenance can be outsourced, reestablish the Adopt a Park program, add up to 10 additional park maintenance personnel, and identify parks that can be repurposed in order to reduce the number of acres the city maintains. Please vote. Motion carries 6-0. Let's move on. Item number 27.
I just had a quick comment to Michael. We got an email today, in fact, about the ward meetings, and I think one ward was left out of that. If somebody could look at that email.
I couldn't find Ward 5.
I don't know where Ward 4 is.
Number 27, moving right along. Discuss the idea of a do not litter and a bag and tie PR campaign and directing staff accordingly. Ms. Chapman,
Yes, Mayor, Council.
need your volume.
We are going to be fast on this one. I'm so excited that we may be getting a wintership for the Oklahoma beautification, and we're working toward that. This sort of goes right along with this. I think it's really important for the city to promote beautification and having some type of a PR campaign to remind people, do not litter, bag and tie. And sometimes people have to be reminded of this, so hopefully it will catch on. And I think this would be a good start to build upon this, some kind of a PR campaign for this. And there is money in the CIP for beautification, and definitely this would be in that category. So I would like to move to have staff bring back a proposal to start a PR campaign on do not litter and bag and tie.
Okay, and we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
And we do have a second. Discussion or debate? I would like to say I'm very supportive of this. I'm looking forward to seeing what the staff brings. If they bring this back reasonably quick, we can have it implemented by the winter, which is when we see all the blowing litter, typically December through March. And I think reminding people to have a little pride in their community is important. Mr. Warren, you got your light on.
Oh, I apologize.
Okay. Does anybody want to make any comments? All right, please vote. Motion carries 6-0. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Chapman, for that. Item number 28, consider approving an ordinance, including any floor amendments related thereto, pertaining to personnel policies and procedures, amending Section 17.3.4.351, Division 17.3.4, Article 17.3, Chapter 17, Lawton City Code 2015, by amending the provisions pertaining to reemployment of retirees in the retirement system set forth in Division 17.3.4, to remove certain restrictions concerning the reemployment of retirees and clarify that no deductions for retirement contributions to this retirement system shall be made from the compensation received by such retiree with respect to their reemployment, providing for severability and establishing an effective date. Craig.
Good afternoon, Mayor, City Council. This is going to be really quick. What we're doing on this is just changing code a little bit. Current code says that if somebody retired off the old pension system, what's the legacy pension system, that they could only come back to work for the city if we could not find a qualified employee for that. There's no time limit in there. So what we're doing is we're just taking this stipulation out. We're still at about 95 to 100 vacant positions in the city. And we have had some interest from some retirees that wanted to come back to work in different areas. We're just trying to take that stipulation out so we can get people hired back in quicker.
Questions or motion?
Just to clarify that a little further, so they can come back and we will not contribute to their retirement with the new wages.
Correct. That was the other little stipulation down there in the bottom of it, that we can't use their new wages or their old retirement pension system pay into their new system. Yep. It goes into the new system when they have to join the new retirement system, yes.
Move to
Motion.
approve.
Move for approval. Second. And a second. Discussion or debate. Please read the ordinance.
An ordinance amending personnel policies and procedures, Section 1734, 351, Division 1734, Article 173, Chapter 17, Lawton City Code 2015, by amending the provisions pertaining to reemployment of retirees in the retirement system to remove certain restrictions concerning the reemployment of retirees and clarify that no deductions for retirement contributions to this retirement system shall be made from the compensation received by such retiree with respect to the reemployment, providing for severability, and establishing an effective date.
Please vote. Motion carries 6-0. Moving us to staff reports. A report from the Director of Planning concerning approved funding from the Oklahoma Department of Transportation, ODOT, to be used by the Lawton Metropolitan Planning Organization, LMPO, to update the 2030 Land Use Plan and the 2050 Land Use Plan. Janet.
The city manager asked me to give this report and let you all know that ODOT has approved some funding that is unusual, but it allows us to be able to spend about $75,000 in the upcoming year to revise our land use plan. The last land use plan that we had is our 2030, and it was approved in 2008, and it is somewhat outdated. And since the planning department serves to direct the LMPO for planning and the land use plan is used for rezoning, we're very excited about this opportunity, and probably by next summer we'll see an updated land use plan. So we're allocating about $75,000 that will come from ODOT for that.
Okay, and that is coming through LMPO, so it's not like we're taking action or anything. Are there questions?
I just wanted to say something. I've been here so long that was actually a brand new plan when I started, the 2030. So it just tells you. So it's hard to believe that it's almost 2030, right? So that 75,000 will be well used because we do need a new plan.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And that moves us to executive session. Do we have a motion? I have a motion going to executive session. A second, please call the roll.
Warren, Hankins, Harris, Chapman, Burke, Hampton.
Very first thing. That was good. You got through it. Janice.
Okay, we're back from executive session. Please call the roll.
Warren. Hankins. Harris. Chapman. Burke. Hampton.
Number 29, John?
Pursuant to Section 307B4, Title 25 Oklahoma statutes, council convened an executive session, discussed a pending damage claim of Kent Jackson, personal representative of the estate of Israel Wilson. I understand there is a motion on this agenda item.
Yeah, I move to direct city attorney to enter into negotiations to see if a settlement can be reached with the understanding that any tentative settlement to be brought back to council for ratification.
Is there a second? Did you second, Mr. Warren? We've got a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes 6-0. Motion for adjournment, please. Motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Warren. Hankins. Harris. Chapman. Burke. Hampton.